Alright guys, so I did some cleaning up in the garage, got stuff off the trunk lid in the front, cleaning out the trunk, so I'm going to start working on that next, now that I got everything under here somewhat done. So, that's what it looks like. Seam sealed it, painted it black. This side was already kind of done, but I just gave it another coat there. So I mean, it is what it is. Got it in here, it's all cleaned up, looks nice. Got the brace in, it's all painted up and done. So the next thing I'm gonna do is start working back here. So pull the shocks out and pull the tank out, get in there. At the back there's a brace that goes across, which I'm gonna have to work on next. So I'll pull everything out, see what kind of works out. Actually looks pretty good back here. It's not too rusty or anything, so I should be able to, you know, wire wheel it a little bit, give it a quick coat of undercoating, and it'll be good for years to come. Okay, so that's that. Alright guys, so I got the tank out, both shocks came out. One was actually stud was broken, so it was barely hanging on there. Yeah, so that's pretty much that. It actually looks pretty clean under here, which is very nice. So next I'll probably take the bumper off, because there's this brace here where it goes in the side. It's rotted out, and then of course where the floor kind of comes down, you can see from the top. I guess I'll show you when I get it back up there. It's all hammered out as well, so I'll do a couple of patch panels on the trunk, and then that, and then obviously the last two body mounts. They've had it, so I'll replace those while I'm at it. And yeah, that's pretty much that. Then I can pull out a fuel line out, and then while I was under here I noticed, it's kind of hard to see, but kind of in the wrong spot. Actually I can, fuel line pointer. Right there is actually where the shocks go through. They go right through and into the trunk, so it's kind of boxed. But on both sides, there's actually a little crack on them, so while it's all apart, I'll weld it up, grind it down, be just like new. But actually back here, it's real nice. A little bit of, where it's obviously been towed at some point, hammer that back. So yeah, turned out pretty good. Bumper off, and start cleaning. And while I'm here, I'm sure I'm gonna probably changing out these springs and stuff like that. When I took these ones out, these helper springs, you've probably seen the video a little bit, the car sure dropped about an inch or whatever. So definitely I'll have to get on that. Actually, I'll probably show here. Yeah, before the basically the top of the tire was almost level with the radius, and now it's dropped about an inch or so. So I'm assuming those springs are tired, and that's why those helper shocks were put on. So I'll get on that. We'll see what it turns out. Alright, bumper's off. This looks kind of cool, got a bumper on it. So obviously it's on the ground there. So this is what I'm talking about. This section, this side's not actually terrible, but this side you can see is completely rotted away all in there. And that right there is where the body bushing is, both sides. So I'll unbolt that, lift the car up a little bit, you know, put some blocks of wood under it, whatever I gotta do, and then chop that piece out, put that new brace across. So yeah, I'll end up changing those out, both sides, new panel across. Like I said, I'm not too sure what I'm gonna do with this. I'm gonna put a plate across there, not that they sell, and this is where the shocks come up, so it's kind of crazy. Just right in the trunk. Oh, this side you can see, look at this big crack over there. I'll have to fix that up too. Yeah, well. But I mean, really, it's solid, which is nice. Like, there's a few little, someone had to get in there for some reason. But otherwise, it's all there. I'll re-seam seal everything, wire wheel it, paint it black, a little speckle paint, no one will ever know. The deck lid. I think what I'm going to do, the guy actually bought the flip front end off of and stuff like that. He skinned his, so he took all the kind of structure out, you know, took the pieces off, and then just put some pins in it to kind of give it the look. I was looking, those fiberglass deck lids are actually, they're not that much money, but being in Canada, the exchange and the shipping and brokerage and all that, it works out to be like $400 or $500. So I think I might just do that. I got about 3 or 4 spare deck lids that came with all the different cars, so chop one up, see what happens. Worst case I don't like it, put it back together. But yeah, so yeah, should really turn it out there. Most of the kind of big work is all done. Now it's a lot of little stuff screwing around and all that. I'm pretty excited to not be under the car anymore because that was getting old in a hurry. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Alright guys, so I left off yesterday. So bumper was off, I went and put that in the basement and everything. So today's going to be a bit of a weird day. I don't really know what I'm going to do exactly. I brought in, these are the control arms. I brought in both sides. They're on the two-door originally. So they look like they're, I mean, basically the same shape as the ones that are on the car. One lower control arm is a little bit hammered up, but I was thinking I might take those apart at some point and clean them up and put some of that top seal or whatever it is, that KY sealer on it, see what that does. Otherwise, I should probably get back to the sill, the door jamb and all that. So I just kind of had all the metal put in and everything, but I hadn't finished it all up, so I might get on that, put a little filler on there, and then I might just start working in the back, in the trunk. I got to the little pieces and all that, I got those ordered, so it should be here the next week or so. But in the meantime, I think I might just kind of clean up in here a little bit. There's a few spots here that have been hammered out and stuff, so I can weld that kind of back together. And then on the underside, I got to weld up the where the shocks came through the floor. And then there's actually right here, there's a bad one there, so I got to hammer the floor back in and weld that all up. So it'll kind of be a bit of bunch of everything today. I'll probably be bouncing around, just screwing around doing those kind of little tasks while I wait on getting the floor done. I'd like to get all the sheet metal work done before I get too much more going. And once I do that and get all that kind of dealt with, who knows, I might start working on the deck lid or whatever. But that's where I'll be going today. So yeah, we'll get started. All right, guys. So I ground that down a little bit, put a quick coat of filler on. Well, I'll let that dry. Pull the welder out. So this is the little hatchet mark there, so I got it ground down best I can. I'll kind of pry it out, put a few tack bolts in, and hit it again with the grinder. And then back here, if you can see, but there was a couple of big cracks. One that went all the way back there, up here. The one actually runs from there all the way around to there. So I knocked it straight from underneath, actually, ground it up a little bit, and I'll start welding on it. And then once that's all done, grind down smooth, it'll rocker guard there and no one will ever know. Alright, so here's the progress I made. That's that little piece there. There's a little bit there I kind of filled in. And then that's the where the crack and all it was. You can clearly tell that didn't go well because there's seam sealer and rocker guard on it, and that's bare metal. So that needs a little bit more grinding, but overall it came out pretty good. No one will ever know. And then on this side, so I sanded down the first layer there, put one more coat on. I'm sure it'll be probably good enough. And then while I was at it, the little transition here, I am doing that as well. So let that dry, go have some lunch, and I'll come back out and I should be able to sand that down. Might need one little skim coat on a few spots, otherwise it'll be ready for primer, and then it's really pretty much done. And then I got to work on up here, so it's pretty ugly. I just kind of tack welded those in, so I'll have to clean that up with a grinder and put some good welds in there, get that all cleaned up. And then what I did on the other side is I filled in with with some fiberglass and whatnot. Actually, I don't even know. I still got to finish up in there. That's pretty ugly too. So I'll be working on that kind of here and there throughout the day. Alright guys, I figured I'd show you underneath here what I'm working on. So that is the, you can see that, you can see the two cracks there, so I'm going to hammer that straight, weld it all up. I already fixed the top side, and this side wasn't as bad, but you can see that's still there a little bit. While I was under here, I actually noticed rear springs on both sides are bust, so that's probably why it's sitting low and all that. It's unfortunate. I have to check before, and these things aren't cheap, so I guess I'm changing these for sure. But I'll get to welding this and I'll show you how it turns out. Alright guys, so I actually I don't even know where I left off. It's been a few days since I've been out here and done any real filming and stuff like that, so garage is still trashed. It's all kind of ripped apart there. Got the fuel tank out, bumper off, all that is kind of where I left off. I did pick up some new panels for the rear section here, so this is the brace that's going to go underneath and have the body mounts go to it. The replacement little tail panel will be right there. Obviously it's backwards, and then this is the back, and it's a 1 foot section or something like that that fits together, so it all kind of sandwiches together, brace, floor, and then the tail panel there goes across. So I'll probably be working on that today, see how it goes. I'm not gonna lie, I actually had a pile of pizza for dinner, so it might be an early night, but I'll get this cleaned up, start chopping it all out, and kind of show you the progress I make along the way. Alright guys, kind of show you what I'm doing here. So I put this replacement tail panel on. I lined it up where the seam is. I don't know if you can see or not there, but I did that, and then I just marked the Sharpie. Obviously I gotta be in about an inch or so from that, but that just gives me an idea of where not to cut. In here, to get to the body mount bolts, it's a bit of a pain. When you go right on top, you actually can't get anything in there, and they're all rusted and seized. So I'm gonna cut part of this section out. I'm gonna nip off the the trunk latch and all that there, leave that with the car. Then I'll just kind of get this out of the way. Then I can get in there, see what I want to work on. And you can see underneath here, this is the brace and the body mount there, and it all just kind of goes together. So hopefully I can just chop it all out in kind of one big and ugly piece, and then start fitting the new pieces all together, get them all sandwiched there. So I'll start cutting this out, kind of show you the progress I end up making there. Alright, so about 8 seconds later, I just cut 2 little slits and I just folded it over. This all just wraps around, and then I guess it gets welted on the bottom. It's all full of this old seam sealer stuff, but that's clearly the back of the floor, right there, that section, and this little hole right there, that's what I'm working on there, where the body mounts go, and then this little piece here on both sides, that's what's completely rotted away. So pretty simple little setup there. So I'll just kind of hack this all out as much as I want. I probably don't want to go too far back, maybe just kind of where the spare tire is, because it actually looks pretty solid from the front, and I can just trim this to fit all the way across, put it all in. I'll undo these body mounts, take it all apart. But yeah, it's actually pretty simple. Works out good for me. Alright, so got the piece all cut out there, rough. Unfortunately, this sail panel, I actually didn't think it was in that bad a shape. Once I started cutting into it, this is all filler. You can see it's come out the back side, so it's completely junk. And as I start going over here, you can see this is all fiberglass up in here, so that's gonna need a bunch of repair. You couldn't really tell because it's all up under there. This side actually looks decent once I got in there, so I'll be doing some metal fabrication on that side. But otherwise, I just kind of cut it real rough at the back there. No strength to it anymore. Got the you know, where all the mounts goes all in good shape on the frame and everything. So I'll get that all cleaned up, and probably start fitting in this, you know, bottom brace and fitting the trunk pan and doing all those things, because this piece, obviously, the tail pan goes on after anyway. So I'll get it all kind of set up and tackled in place, and then I can start playing with this as I close the trunk lid and make sure it fits properly. So that's where I've gone so far. I'm gonna do a little look around the internet, see if I maybe just find this piece. I don't know if you have to buy the whole rear quarter section. I know they sell that, but just this little kind of compound curve, be nice to just get that, because it only goes filler to about there, and then it's actually got not bad right there. So I'll see what I can do. If that doesn't work, well, maybe I can use a piece of the old one or just some flat metal and I'll bend it on the vise. But alright guys, so I'm making some progress back here. I ended up cutting out all the old rusty metal and stuff, and I've just got this the floor piece kind of clamped in a place where I want it to be. So it's pretty much there. I'm going to end up cutting it all out. I cut around where the spare tire was, so I can weld in there and I can just re-seam seal it. I'll seam seal the corners, and then there'll just be a little gap. You can kind of see right there where this piece, I guess the inner fender, is not going to be there, so I can get that from the outside in. I'm not too concerned about that. I want to get this all in, but this is lined up. I have it. The body mounts are there, so it's all clamped together. So that's where it's going to be. I mean, everything, you know, somewhat lines up. You can see with the trunk and all that. So I'll have to screw it all down and all that. And that's I was kind of ginger over here because I ordered those patch panels, and they should be, you know, up to about here and then across. I'm not sure exactly where they're going to be, so I left lots of material just in case I have to work with it. And that's pretty much it. So I'm probably not going to do too much more after I get this in until I get that panel. Obviously I got to do a little repair there and stuff, so I'll do some grinding and get that stuff figured out. But yeah, that's going. So I'm going to keep grinding away, cut it all down, and I'll once I get more tacked in and stuff, I'll kind of show you how it turns out. Alright, so here's what I've done. I cleaned out some of the stuff out of the trunk. I screwed it down with some tech screws there. I got it kind of nice clean metal. So what I'm going to do is kind of work my way across with the zip cut in there, and obviously as I get little spaces there, I'll use these metal clamps to hold it. I'll kind of work my way across, and then once I get it kind of flush and level, which it should be, then I'll just put a few tack welds in, because as I cut, all these tech screws will lose all their strength, obviously, because that part of the trunk floor won't exist anymore. So that's what I'm going to do. Work my way across, get a few tack welds in there, just kind of hold it. I'm probably not going to finish this up too much until I get the back piece, but it should be pretty good. I mean, worst case, I'll have to move it in a little bit, because it does stick out. So I'm not sure if this panel is supposed to be trimmed a little, or if it's just kind of how it is. So yeah, that's where I'll go next. Alright guys, here's a little update. So I've been working my way across. I have the clamps to kind of hold it, so I'll have a nice little seam I can butt weld there. I ended up underneath using a pile of 4x4s, but just put under the floor to kind of make it level, because it drooped down because it attached there, and obviously there's no structure there. So I put a level on it, and it's pretty much level. And I mean, the car is still on jack stands dead level, front to back, side to side, from when I was doing the frame rail stuff. So the car's still square or level, I should say. So that'll work out great. So now I'm just going to kind of work my way across, put a few tack welds in there. Once that's there, I'll probably put a few tack welds on the tail pan to the brace underneath, because the brace, I have it bolted in, so I can tighten that up, and then it'll be solid, and then kind of keep carrying on. So that's where I'm at. I'll put a few tack welds in, I'll get the rest cut out, and kind of show you guys how it all turned out. Alright, here we go. So I got that, just a few tack welds in there to hold it. This side I still haven't done yet, but you get the kind of drift of where I'm going. So that's pretty much that. I managed to cut around there, get it all pulled down as much as I could. So I'm going to put a few more tack welds on. Like I said, I'm going to end up putting a few welds just to secure that all together. And I think I'm going to call it for the night. It's probably about midnight right now, and I'm done. So yeah, I'll put a few more welds in tonight, and then be back at tomorrow. I'll finish welding it right in and show you guys how that goes. Alright, that's it for now. Alright, there we have it. Folded the whole way across. Just gave it a few tack welds underneath, so this panel to the brace underneath, I just kind of every few inches give it a good shot there, so it should be fine. And that's that. So I'm going to come back in. I'm going to kind of flatten that all out with the flap wheel. Probably get everything cleaned out of here. Give it a quick wire wheel there, and then I'll run some seam sealer on the top and bottom side. And the bottom side is basically ready for undercoating, because I've done the front half of the car. And then up here, I guess I'll see how it all turns out. Hopefully it looks all pretty good. I won't find any surprises once I start grinding away, because you never really know what's going to happen there, but I'm optimistic. And then I just got to fill back in around here. This got a little ugly. As I was welding, it was starting to melt all the old seam sealer, so that was kind of gross to breathe in, but yeah, it turned out pretty good. A little bit in the corner, then all I really got to do after is join, because I chopped the inner tub. It was all rusty, so I just gave it a flat line, but that originally joined down to the bottom of the trunk pan, so I got to make that little piece as well. But that's pretty easy and doesn't have to look too pretty or anything, because no one's ever going to see it. Just seal the trunk away. So that's that. There we go. Got it all cleaned down. It's still a little scaly in some spots, but overall it's good enough to be a trunk. Everything's all ground down nice and smooth. So I'll probably still just seam seal across there, just because there's a few little pits, and in these little gullies it's a pain to get in there. And obviously I gotta do the edges. I'll redo around the spare tire. I'll give it a quick vacuum and all that. But otherwise I'm gonna seam seal it. I'm just gonna shoot it all black, the whole thing all the way around. Be good. I got a little bit of repair I gotta do in the shock mount on this side, but so I'll probably just paint here back, and then that I can actually get from inside the car a lot easier and work through the opening for the back seat. But yeah, that's that. It turned out pretty sweet. This is quite the panel. It wasn't cheap, but having the right one, it's all bent properly and all that saves you a pile of time. So yeah, I'll seam seal it, let that dry probably overnight, and then hit it tomorrow with some a little bit of rocker guard or truck bed coating and some spackle or whatever you want to call it, paint to give it the old factory look. And that's that. Alright guys, I figured I'd show you how I do the seam sealing. I'm sure it's a bunch of other ways that are probably all better than mine, but the tube there, and all I do is just kind of give it a goosh the whole way down. Try not to go too crazy in some of the areas there. Kind of hard to film as I'm looking at what I'm doing, but see how this turns out. Kind of dark in this corner. So I mean, that's kind of that. Basically just get some where you want it. After, I just kind of run your finger across, get it all smoothed out somewhat. No little cracks, go back and forth. So it's all even. Ooh, a little bit much there. And obviously the tape lines are gonna take off all the excess. That's not too bad. I gotta go in this area, but I'll do that after. So it's a whole separate little thing. Okay, once you kind of get it, just kind of run your finger over it, the back side, so it's all kind of the same. So it'll look like that. Okay, now just peel the tape off. It's like a whole new thing, trying to do this one-handed. So this is going to give you kind of a hard line, but gets the general idea. Oh, I left a little extra there. And I like to spray kind of a little bit of brake cleaner over top of it. And you can just kind of feather the edges a little bit with your finger again. Brake cleaner just kind of lets it skip across without getting all stuck. And that's pretty much it. So this just takes the edge down. You can still see the line obviously now. And then once the brake cleaner evaporates or whatever it does off, it'll be a nice little transition, but it's a nice straight line all the way across, and then I'll just paint over that. I mean, you can still see it, but it'll definitely be better than just having the actual welded joint. And that's that. And then I'll do the underside. I don't go nearly as nice on the bottom side because you're never ever going to see it. I'll probably never see under the trunk here or whatever it is in the trunk anyways. So I'll paint it, put a rubber mat on it, but just thought I'd show you how it's done. Here you go. It's been about maybe 20 minutes, half hour. I ended up doing the edges. Those I just put a real thin bead in, spray them with some brake clean, then drag my finger over them. So just kind of resealed it. But this is how this little piece turned I filled in around there just by a little freehand there. But overall, I mean, it turns out pretty decent. It has the overall kind of form, just right at the bottom of some of those little valleys. Still a little bit of brake fluid. Well, I'll let that dry for a few hours and stuff like that. Give it a good vacuum, and then it's basically ready to be sealed. I mean, hey, it's not perfect, but I got most of the scales and all that stuff off. And considering this thing's only going to be driven in the summer, I think it'll be fine. I don't have nothing in the trunk ever. Maybe a spare tire. Yeah, that's that. So I'll give it a few hours to dry. Maybe I'll come back after supper, see how it goes, and fog this thing black. Alright guys, I pulled the wheels off there. I was actually doing the seam sealing of the inside of the panel, because like there was obviously so many. So it's just seam sealing the inside of both. Let that sit overnight, and then I'll come back and fill that full undercoating while I was waiting on the trunk floor to dry. So that's how it turned out. I mean, it looks pretty decent there. I mean, you can clearly see there's a line that runs across. But overall, I mean, everything lines up and stuff like that. So tomorrow I'll probably do a little bit of research, and I'll see, I don't know how these trunks were on all the stuff I'm used to, all the muscle cars and all that. It was always that speckle type paint and all that, and I actually just go to the hardware store and I buy fake rock paint and kind of blast it on there. It gives it the same kind of look for about $8. But we'll see. This one actually, I was in there and you could see that the paint had peeled off, and it was green on the inside there, and the car was green originally, this four-door. So maybe it was just painted body color, so I'm not really too sure. I might just leave it flat black and carry on. But I think that's it for tonight. So tomorrow I got to finish up, like I said, working the wheel wells, doing some ugly work there. I got to finish off, there's a few little patches on the inside I got to do, and finish back welding all the sills and stuff like that on both sides. And then undercoat those, get those ready to go. And then probably step in the car and contort my way in there to finish that one shock mount. I've finished that one for sure. That one was done on the underside. I just haven't done the top side, so I guess they crack all the time, so I just re-welded it and call her done. This one, because I think those leaf springs were all cracked and broken, had those overload springs. Clearly that's what it did, and the shocks there broke through there. So I think that's it for this. I think I'm going to leave it for tonight, and probably starting something else tomorrow.